Hey, Dallas Baptist folks, this is Scott Henson, pastor. I'm in a sanctuary using my cell phone to record a video today because my computer is doing a big update. Gee, thanks, Windows. We're going to do a little preview of the sermon for Sunday. The title of the sermon is called Glory Days, and we'll be looking at Exodus chapter 1. And we'll be talking about Israel's history, good and bad. One of the things that we find in the Torah or the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of Moses, there are several instances where the children of Israel, when they're in the wilderness, they complain, they moan, they groan, and they complain especially about their situation in the wilderness. Over in Exodus chapter 14, I'm reading from the ESV, it says, "They said to Moses, 'It is because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away in the wilderness. What have you done to us and bring us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone, we may serve the Egyptians. For it have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness.'" They complain again over several places in Numbers 14, 2 through 3 is a good example. "All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to him, 'If we had only died in Egypt or in this wilderness, why is the Lord bringing us to the land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children to take us plunder. Would have been better for us to go back to Egypt.'" You see, the Israelites are in a bad situation in the wilderness, but they had it pretty bad in Egypt. You see, memory isn't always the best. You see, they remembered things being better than they actually were. They may have had food, yes, but in the wilderness of Egypt, in Egypt, they were slaves. They worked hard. They had no freedom. They had no hope of being free. But in the wilderness, they had potential. You see, sometimes we think about the good old days, the glory days, and life was so much better back then. You think about it, life wasn't always so much better back then. We have a romanticized view of how life was. Now, life is hard right now. Life is different. Life may have been better 20 years ago. Heck, life was better maybe a year ago. But what we have is now. We got to live in the now, not in the past. We can't change the past. We can't go back to the past. We can live in the moment and make today the best day we can make it. And one of the best ways to make that happen is to follow God. Follow His lead, follow His blessing, follow Him. You see, the Israelites mumbled and grumbled and groaned. They weren't very faithful at that moment. They had taken their eyes off God, much like Peter took his eyes off Jesus and began to sink. We must have faith. We must make the most of today. We must follow Him.